Keep, loan, sell, Thomas Frank, Tottenham Hotspur edition. In today's video, me and Seb are going to be doing a keep, loan and sell, a bit of a squad audit of the Spurs squad with Thomas Frank arriving, and have a look and have a bit of a chat about some of the players that he might love, might want to ship out the door, might want to give a chance in pre-season to, or might want to send out on loan to develop. So we're going to be going through the whole squad today, including the players that are currently out on loan or have just come back from loan at Spurs, some of the youngsters as well. I've got Seb alongside me today. Make sure to go and subscribe to Seb's YouTube channel. The link will be in the description. We've done a video over on his account as well, where we talked about 5 signings Tottenham could make under Thomas Frank to make us a really competitive, good outfit next season in Frank's first season. Treble winners, exactly. Super Cup winners at least. So, Seb, we're going to get straight into this. I've also got a separate tier because this tier list did come with Timo Werner, Reguilon, Forster and Alfie Whiteman included, but I thought it'd be a good chance to say goodbye to our fallen soldiers and thank them for everything they've done at Tottenham Hotspur. Where should we start then? I feel like the best place to start is by maybe going through some of the players straight off the bat that you think don't necessarily have a future under Thomas Frank at Tottenham. Who are some of those players that you think that might be?
Alejo Valise, potentially the weirdest signing in Tottenham Hotspur history. It's interesting with him. He's obviously been out on loan at Espanyol this season. It's not gone well for him. I think he scored 1 goal in the La Liga, and then he scored a hat-trick against, I think, a 4-tier Spanish side. So those are his only goals this season. It's not gone well for him. No. He's 20. He turns 22 at the start of next season, I think, and I can't really see it with him, to be honest, lads. So I would probably put Alejo Valise in sell before his stocks get any lower.
I would.
I wouldn't hate a loan, like another loan to maybe back to Argentina to bump the price up a little bit. But I think you'd probably be looking at quite minimal fees anyway from him. So yeah.
Look, sometimes these market opportunities don't always work out, and I think this is one that hasn't worked out. We didn't spend a load of money on him. We might get the money back from an Argentinian side. Yeah. I can't remember exactly which Argentinian side it is that are supposedly interested in him.
It's the same one that we bought him from, isn't it?
Oh, is it? Okay, fair enough.
So, yeah.
Oh, they're coming back then. Yeah, I would be inclined to agree with you. Valise is the first casualty of Thomas Frank era. I just don't see how it works. Bear in mind how many other strikers we actually have got. Let's
Brian Hill next.
Brian Hill, yeah, I think that again, time to just try and get some money. Every time we do a keep, loan, sell, regardless of whether it was for Postecoglou or whether it's for the new manager that's coming in this case, Thomas Frank, Brian Hill always ends up on the chopping block, and I think he again.
I feel sorry for him, man. His body just never developed.
Nah, he's a good player. He's a good player, but Frank's, I just don't see it working, especially with the way that Frank wants to use his wingers if we're basing this off of how they set up last season.
No, 100%.
So, yeah, it's just try and get as much money back as you can for him. Let's talk about Manuel Solomon, because I feel like, again, he's someone that some Spurs fans want to keep around. I'd just be honest, like, I don't think with the other wingers that we've got at the club, people look at what he did at Leeds and are just like, oh, yeah, we shouldn't have got rid of him and all this kind of stuff. Why did we buy Odebear? It's like, Solomon's not good enough to be a regular Premier League winger for a club like Tottenham. I don't get it.
Those same people will tell you, where's the pathway for Mikey Moore and where's the,
but let's keep Solomon.
I want to see more of Odebear, I want to see more of Tel. Where does he fit there if you've got Odebear, Tel, potentially still Sonny at the club and Mikey Moore on that left-hand side? Cash him while his stocks are high. Maybe Leeds want him for, £15 million. We did get him for free, so obviously that was a strange situation with not paying Shakhtar.
Yeah.
Didn't really know what happened there. But if you can cash him for 10, 15 million pounds after the season he's had in the Championship, 100% take the opportunity. 100%.
I'd agree with that. Let's go through some bankers then that are definitely going to stay, which would be Dejan Kulusevski, 100% keep. I feel like it's going to be interesting to see what Kulusevski's kind of primary role is. We both did videos talking about how Frank might set up at Spurs, and it was almost a bit weird. I feel like we both kind of spoke about it after we made the videos. It was like Kulusevski almost became a bit of a, weirdly for how good he is, now important he's been for us this season, a bit of an afterthought in a way, like in this system.
No.
He doesn't jump off the page as someone who might really thrive. Again, basing it off of how Frank set up at Brentford last season for the most part. But then again, I think the beauty that we spoke about this on your video just now, the beauty of Thomas Frank is that you don't actually necessarily know how he's going to set up. He's going to look at the players that he has got and develop a system and develop a way of playing that way. He's a pragmatist. That's not boring. That is just someone who does moves according to the resources that he has available to him, whether that's more offensively, more defensively, in-game from the start, his whole philosophy. he wants to play attacking football, and I feel like he's going to find a way to use Kulusevski.
He's way too good to ever fall out of favour really with a manager. His leadership skills, his ability on the ball, his physical levels as well. If he can sort of have a proper pre-season under his belt, he's going to be fit for pre-season, I think.
Yeah,
I think he's still got another couple of weeks left.
He's back. He's back walking now, isn't he? He's off the crutches in the wheelchair, which is good. I saw him post on the other day. Let's go through a couple of other Bergvall is obviously a banker. Porro is a banker. Udogie is a banker. Solanke is a banker. Van der Ven, he's a what? What do you call him? He's a banker. Vicario, obviously a banker as well. James Maddison. What do you like? I think with Maddison, again this is something that's been spoken about a lot when in reference to how Thomas Frank used Damsgaard last season. I think Maddison could really thrive under Frank. Again, if we are basing this off of how he set up last year in that 4-1, which I think when you look at the strengths of the squad and the profiles of the squad, I think it's a really nice fit in terms of the system that he did use. Playing Damsgaard as an out-and-out number 10 with a double pivot behind him feels like that's perfectly set up for Maddison as kind of just a bit of a... He can kind of go back to almost how he played at Leicester a little bit. Don't get me wrong, I liked Maddison a little bit dropping deep as an 8 for Spurs. I did actually like that. I think his out-of-possession game improved a lot under Postecoglou. I think he was able to dictate games from deep, run them from deep. Again, the results wouldn't necessarily... He's not going to get the praise that he should have got for his performances because of the results at Spurs last season, but I think he came on leaps and bounds as a player compared to his first season. Yeah, but I think he's going to go to another level, hopefully, under Frank in that role.
It's going to be so interesting to see him because, like you said about him dropping deeper, he's going to be right in between those lines next season. He's going to be picking up the ball in areas where he can properly hurt teams, and I think Thomas Frank is going to be so excited to use James Maddison. And that was kind of my thing with Kulusevski. I was getting so excited about what Frank could do with Maddison. Did kind of forget about Kulusevski, but he'll find a role 100%. And those two will work in tandem in this system 100%.
I also think part of the reason we kind of almost put Kulusevski to the back of our minds was because of Brennan Johnson. Now, a lot of, Brennan Johnson, his stocks have never been higher at Spurs because he's just scored the winner in the Europa League final. And he's become this cult. I mean, we all like Johnson throughout the season because he scored those goals, but there was this, there was that frustration of how limited he can be in general play, but you can't put a price on the output. And I think with Johnson, because two things really, Frank's track record of improving attackers, Justin Cochrane as well, who is joining Spurs as Frank's assistant manager. I saw someone before we started recording was talking about how he's responsible for quite a lot of attacking drills at Brentford, or was, and has had a big part to kind of play in that development of some of those attackers. And there was a coaching drill where it was like someone, you could hear it, Cochrane screaming on the sidelines. It pans back to him. It was like he's telling, I think it was Lewis Potter, to attack the post, make sure you get there on the rebound. It was like Brennan Johnson. It's just like,
hello, you've got the best in the business. I tweeted the other day, I genuinely think he might be the best poacher in the world.
He's up there.
Ridiculous.
Look at the header that he scored for Wales. It was like genuinely his knack of finding that a bit of space and also running into open space, which is something that when Frank did want to play a bit more of a counter-attacking game, that's where Mbuemo Shada came into it massively. I can actually see Johnson maybe being used a little bit on that left-hand side potentially as well, because the other point I was going to make about being excited about Johnson, not just Frank and Cochrane and Brentford's ability generally during the last few years to develop and improve attackers. Frank wanted to sign Brennan Johnson. Brentford wanted to break their transfer record to sign Brennan Johnson. So there's obviously a real admiration for him there. And I'm really interested to see how he's going to use him. So I think there were probably a lot of Spurs fans that would have said, before the final, if you can get some money, maybe sell because he doesn't offer you enough. Now, I think, one, that's completely flipped because of the final. But also, two, I think with another attacking, a coach coming in who can get the best out of him and really wanted to sign him, I'm really excited to see Johnson next year, actually.
I think, I never thought we should have sold him, but you were wanting more throughout the season, and then the kind of goals come and you're like, well, like you said, you can't really put a price on that level of goal scoring. We discussed over on my channel that 1v1 specialist over on that right-hand side is a key area for me this summer. I think you do need a different profile over there because there were plenty of games last season where Brennan Johnson did struggle against lower blocks, for example. If you've got a Mathis Tel on the left-hand side, you might want a different profile on the right-hand side. And I think that is still a key area, but Johnson will have a huge role to play next season, 100%.
I agree with that, 100%. Let's go to a player who's divided a bit of opinion recently. Extended his contract at Spurs for another year. Ben Davies. I think it's wishful thinking from some Spurs fans a little bit that this has been done to try and get a fee for him. I'm not saying there won't be another club that comes in for him, but I think Spurs have done this to try and keep him around at the club. There's also been a bit of chat on the flip side of that, as some people seeing it as a positive. Some Brentford fans or Spurs fans that were kind of doing a bit more research into Brentford kind of came up with this idea that Davies could be Frank's Ben Mee, like an experienced player at the back who's not going to play loads of football but can almost be that bridge a little bit between the dressing room and the manager, and also that bit of experience and kind of having someone that just a wise kind of head.
Potentially, yeah.
I'm not against that, but I also do think Spurs are going to go into the summer or into the Champions League with some squad registration headaches, and I think getting rid of Ben Davies, like taking up a place in that squad, might be the right thing to do, and try and get some money for him.
Feels like time for me. I've said it over the course of this season. I love Ben Davies. He's been a brilliant servant to Tottenham Hotspur. But if we get any sort of money from this summer, I would probably look to move on. The worry for me would be that we re-sign Ben Davies, Thomas Frank comes in, he likes him in pre-season, and then we don't go out and get that extra depth in that left centre-half role, and we sort of leave it at that. That's what would worry me. And I think there comes a time for every player. Like, you know, you could probably extend Ben Davies' contract till he's 40, and he could probably give you a similar amount of output to what he's giving you now, really, in that left centre-half role. But I think he's coming at times this season, and I think towards the end of the season, he was really starting to look a bit out of place in that Spurs side at times. And look, Ange Postecoglou's system left our centre-backs hugely exposed, and that was never going to help Ben Davies. And maybe in a more protected system next year, and if we go to a back three, he could then become an option, that left-sided centre-half role. It could work. It could definitely work in like the cup competitions potentially as well. But I would personally look to sell if we can get any sort of fee. If nobody comes in for him and we keep him for next year, absolutely fine by me. Daddy Davies stays. I love the bloke. You know, could potentially even be club captain next season if Sonny leaves. But
that's a good question, actually. If Sonny was to leave, who do you think would be made club captain?
I think if Romero... I think Ben Davies might get made club captain and Romero get made first-team captain. But I think it's interesting. I don't know what route they'd go down. And then there's people like Vicario, maybe. I think James Maddison would be up for it too. I think Romero would be up for it, the two vice-captains from this year, of course. Let's talk about Rodrigo Bentancur and his leadership. I probably wouldn't go that way personally, but there's been, you know, big rumours that he is a big leader in that dressing room. But yeah, I think Davies definitely for that experience at the back, especially if Spurs go out and act like a serious football club and sign a younger left centre half, maybe like a Joel Hatto, somebody like that on that left side of defence. Davies could be a nice option to stay there and sort of help them develop, etc. If
also you don't have to register him in the Europa League. If that's the case, like you can keep Ben Davies but not register him in the Europa League squad, so that's fine. Oh, sorry, Champions League squad. Mate, I'm just too wedded to the Europa League, mate. That's why I love it so much.
In that competition, man. But, yeah.
Seems like a good segue after what we just spoke about to speak about Son. This is going to be one that kind of... It divides opinion again, but for the right reasons, because we spoke about this on your channel just now, about the fact that, again, if we are just basing how Tottenham might set up off of how Brentford did under Frank last season, on that left-hand side, that role, having Sharda kind of running in behind, getting into space, cutting back, scoring goals, that's Sonny to a T, isn't it? That's going to be a dream for Sonny, but we've also got to remember that this is not the Son Heung-min of 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. I think, although I wouldn't be against him staying, if Spurs got a decent bid, bear in mind he's got 1 year left in his contract, I think it's probably the right time to move on.
It's the blocking the pathways for me. I think when we look at our left-hand side now, I think we've actually got a number of exciting options and players that I think are ready to take on that responsibility now. You look at Mathis Tel, probably pay decent money for him this summer. Wilson Odobert, look at lots of Mikey Moore. The pathways for these players. I think if Sonny stays, he'd still want to be that main guy on that left-hand side, and I think there would probably be a role for him to do that. I just think in terms of what else we've got in the squad. Yes, Sonny could stay, and if he's okay with being that second or maybe even third choice option on that left-hand side, then I'd be happy for him to stay. He loves the club, we love him, and I think he's in the position now where kind of whatever he wants to do, we should let him do in a lot of ways. But yeah, I think if we're moving ruthlessly, maybe if you could even get a half-decent fee for Heung-min Son and go and maybe invest that in another player over on that left-hand side, maybe. I don't know. I think it might be time to move on this summer for me, and I think I don't like the idea of him staying, still taking up a lot of minutes on that left-hand side, and then somebody like a Wilson Odobert or Mikey Moore not getting as many minutes as I would like them to. So I'd probably look to sell this summer.
Okay,
but I want him to have a proper send-off if it's the last pre-season game, or we need to send him off at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Whatever happens, it can't be a Harry Kane situation where we get a little fucking voice note on Instagram, or
Snapchat.
Like that. Like, yeah, literally, can't be doing that.
I'd probably agree. I wouldn't be against keeping Son.
Neither.
But again, maybe it could be a shout of give him pre-season and see how he kind of copes with.
Yeah, maybe.
But I think I would probably lean towards sell. But I'm not mad if we don't.
Yeah.
Mathis Tel, I think, is the natural place to go after that.
Yeah.
Obviously, there is only two options here, really, in terms of sell, but send back to Bayern, or not take up the option, or keep him. Contract expired or keep. Yeah, so those are the only two options here. I'm massively in favour of keeping him. Yeah, I'm massively in favour of it.
100%.
I think, again, as an inside forward operating and kind of in between the lines, running in behind, linking up, driving inside the pitch rather than being used as a touchline winger, which Frank doesn't necessarily like to do. And Frank's, again, that track record, as we said about Johnson, of Brentford and Frank and the coaching staff there, who sounds like they're all coming to Tottenham. Their track record of improving these attackers. They signed, Bowman and Visser were signed from the second league in France. I think both of them were, and Bowman certainly was. These King Lewis Potter, for example, Damsgaard, like these players. I know Damsgaard has a bit more hype, but yeah, their track record of improving these guys. And I think Frank is going to look at a 19-year-old Tel from Bayern Munich and think, I want to get my hands on this kid, and I really want to. I want to mold him. I want to develop him. Also, like Slanky's 27. Tel could be that long-term striker for Spurs. I do see him. I've said this in many videos. I see him moving inside and into that striker role as time goes on. I think he needs to improve with his back to goal, but that will come as you mature, as you cut your teeth as a striker. And I think his best role is out as a left winger.
Yeah.
But or kind of as an inside forward. I think Frank will be licking his lips looking at Tel. I think it's a no-brainer for me.
1,000,000%,
especially for a cut price, which it sounds like we could get.
Yeah, 100%. And you look at Tel over on that side, Audit too, Mikey Moore too. You've got three very different profiles over there, which is quite exciting as well. And I think Tel is somebody who needs to be profiled quite similar to Sonny. And I just think now that Tel is ready, I really do think he's ready, like with his mentality and everything like that, to step up. Top. And be that guy for us on that left-hand side. And people say, he's only 19, you don't know how he'll cope next season. But, you're never going to cope if you don't give him the opportunity. I think he is ready for that opportunity. I think, you're completely right. Frank will be looking at that and going, I can get the best out of you. And I think he will.
Agreed. Let's go through some of the kids then before we kind of get back onto some of the more experienced squad players, and we can kind of rattle through these a little bit. Alfie Dorrington was obviously on loan at Aberdeen. Another loan, I think, for him.
Yeah,
I think
championship loan for me.
Championship loan, yeah, I'd agree with that. We've also got Damola Ajay, who obviously made an impact in that game against Elfsborg. I think some goal it was. It was some goal indeed. I think maybe a loan for him would do him. Yeah. The world of good.
Championship loan again would be ideal. Maybe a League One loan for him next season.
I'm going to be honest. I think I'm looking at loaning out most of these guys.
Yeah. A lot of them feel like they need one more before we properly make that decision on them. Or a lot of them feel like they've sort of had either unsuccessful loans or loans where it's gone kind of okay, but you still need to do a little bit more to get maybe the price that Tottenham want to get for some of these youngsters. So,
and to be fair, like when you look through some of the players here who have been on loan, Yang did okay at QPR. I think he could do with another loan though.
Yeah.
Personally, Jamie Donnelly did really well at Orient. I think it's time for him to step up to the Championship.
Top level Championship loan I want for Jamie Donnelly next season.
The thing is, it goes without saying that I think Frank should have a look at all of these in pre-season.
Yeah.
I do think the decision should be made. I think overall they should. I think the objective should be to loan them, but definitely have a look at them. I think given pre-season is more reserved for more experienced players to see how they might actually fit in. There's a few players I've got in mind for that.
Yeah, I think Donnelly and Yang are definitely more in give them pre-season, see what they give us, and the other two are definitely more loans. But yeah, all of them eventually I think will end up heading back out on loan.
Yeah, I think let's put those two in there then, because I do think you're right. But this is kind of under the guise that they will probably. I think the right thing is to loan them, but I think they should. I want to have a real. Those are two in particular. I do want to have a real look at.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Someone else as well. I want to kind of have a look at in pre-season again. I'm not sure how much of an opportunity he's going to get. Is Alfie Devine?
Yeah, absolutely. Feels like it's kind of a shame for him in some ways. It's not a shame for Tottenham because it's obviously great to have so many talented youngsters. But when you look at players in his position, you've got Lucas Bergvall, who's just a superstar now. You've got Archie Gray in that position too. You've got Pat Matasar in that position as well. You've got three players who are still relatively young. Bergvall and Gray are the same age as Alfie Devine. And look where they are in terms of their development compared to him. And now we're looking at maybe adding in more experience into that role. I really struggled to see where the pathway is for Devine, but I also think he's a really nice footballer. Like he's a technically gifted footballer. He obviously was is he Spurs' youngest ever goal scorer still at 15 years old against Marine. So yeah, I mean clearly there's a player there and a talent there that Tottenham Hotspur do rate. But I do fear it's one of those where you give him another loan and then you maybe take some money for him with a buyback clause in the future or a sell-on
Yeah.
clause or something like that. I do feel like it could be that kind of situation with Devine, but 100% give him pre-season too.
Again, not all of these. It's like we said about Veliz, and I rate Devine a lot more than Veliz, but like not all of these opportunistic young signings work, and that's how big clubs do operate. You need to take these gambles. Bear in mind, we paid less than £1 million, I think, for Alfie Devine.
Look what City do as well. Like City sell so many talented academy players that probably could maybe make it a City, but the pathway isn't quite there for them. And then they sort of like people build 11s of like City players and former Chelsea players that are now like.
I mean, Chelsea are basically buying all of them, aren't they?
Exactly.
Like,
but
if you get into that as well.
What they do is they sell these players, insert a 20% sell-on clause, and get quite a lot of money constantly coming back into the club from these academy players that then get their big moves, and that's fine. That's how big clubs operate.
It's football. It's football.
Yeah, exactly.
George Abbott, I think, step up to a Championship loan straight off the bat.
Yep,
Again,
straight
wouldn't
up,
mind having a look at him at all in pre-season, but I think that's imperative. I think both the goalies, Luca Gund, Josh Keeley, first and foremost, maybe a step up to the Championship in terms of a loan.
Season for him, but Championship loan next, I think, would be ideal.
Yeah, and Luca Gunter as well. I'll go along with that. Tyrese Hall, I think, again, is a player that's his hype has sort of dwindled a bit at Spurs, but like I don't.
He had the falling out with Ange, didn't he? There was rumours of him.
Yeah.
Well, apparently that was like fairly legit, like him storming out. Was it storming out or something? Or he had a big falling out with Ange, basically, that saw him then get 0 inclusions in the squad or no first team training with the squad either for the rest of last season. So I don't really know what was happening there, but hugely talented and really, really highly rated within the Tottenham Hotspur Academy. Like a lot of people say that Tyrese Hall is one of our best current academy products.
Yeah.
So it'll be really interesting to see what Thomas Frank makes of him next season. And he's a profile that I actually think there's more space for a Tyrese Hall in this current squad, I think, than somebody like an Alfie Devine or some of the other young midfielders that we have. So yeah, I think maybe give him pre-season 100% to then maybe see what kind of level you'd want to send him out on loan to. But he's got to be playing first team football no matter where that is next season. Tyrese Hall for me.
I agree. Bear in mind he's not been out on loan. We've also got Callum Olasese, who I think, again, as kind of, I think it's probably a loan or maybe even a keep around just in the academy structure.
Yeah.
I think maybe for him and maybe for Ajay as well, but maybe I think a lot of these kids could benefit from a loan.
I think a loan is so much more beneficial than playing, 21s football and stuff like that. I really believe that. But it's got to be the right loan, of course.
Although I would say for Williams Barnett, I think it's better where that's like, how old is Luca Williams Barnett?
16.
He's 16. Like
I don't know if he's turned 17 yet.
He's 17 in October. I think definitely keep around. You don't need to loan him out yet. It's too young.
He is one to get excited about, lads. Have a look for him in pre-season because he would definitely get minutes in pre-season.
100%. Ashley Phillips, I think maybe time to
sell. Time to cash in. We bought him for £2.5 million. So I think you might be able to get, maybe a couple of million more from a Championship side. Or had a really good season at Stoke next season. They call him their, I don't know where the area is, but they call him the something Maldini. So
Stoke Maldini?
They obviously love him there. And I think maybe a Championship club would take the gamble on him, maybe even Stoke themselves. So I'd definitely look to sell. I just don't think he ever makes it at Spurs personally. I'm not sure the ceiling is there really on the ball. And again, the pathway not really there for him with players like Vuskovic coming in. So I
think that's the thing. If Vuskovic wasn't there, I think then maybe you have a look in pre-season. But I think
maybe.
I think again, time to we'll have a look. Time to look at where is he? I've lost Vuskovic. He was part of this. He was part of this tier list. We've got a problem. Let me just.
That's classic Vuskovic, really. You think he's at centre half. You look at him; he's a bloody playing up front or something. Like that.
Exactly.
This is a sign of what's to come, lads.
I've got a little photo which I'm going to insert right now. Where is he? Vuskovic.
But what he is. Vuskovic is 100% staying at Tottenham Hotspur next season.
Yeah.
You get some talent sometimes, like Mikey Moore and Vuskovic are the two in the current squad for me. Lucas Bergvall was this last season as well. You don't send them out on loan because you know Vuskovic has had the loan, really. He's had the season at Westerlo in Belgium where he was unbelievable this year. I think he scored 7 goals in the Belgian Pro League.
Yeah, made his Croatia debut the other night.
I mean, when you talk, even though people say it's the Belgium league and stuff, he dominated that league. Like one of the best centre halves in that league at 18 years old. Like that is not something that That is not something that is normal for any player, really. And he's somebody that looks so confident at such a young age. He already looks like he's about 27 years old. 100% keep. In terms of those generational talents, like I think Luka Vuskovic is somebody who has the ceiling, by all accounts, to play for pretty much any top team in the world in the future. So he's definitely one you keep around Tottenham. And
I agree. I think he could be a bit of a Bergvall for us in the sense that, like, okay, might be a bit of an adjustment period, but he will click quite quickly.
I think if Romero leaves the club, he's definitely one to keep an eye on next season in terms of what happens there.
Yeah, Frank's going to love him as well. You think about Nathan Collins, the most aerial duels won in the Premier League last season, the second most blocks, I think, as well.
Vuskovic has a bit of Sergio Ramos about him.
He does a bit in terms of his ability to reward, I think, as well. And Collins was good at that for Brentford as well. Like that's like it was. It almost reminds me a bit of Dyer and Maguire. We spoke about this the other day as well. Like kind of that.
Oh god.
To be fair, Collins is good at breaking the lines with his... Again, taking the best bits out of those two players. Like, Collins is good at breaking the lines with his passing, but also he's good at quite stepping up and driving. And Vuskovic, he's so confident on the ball in terms of carrying it. That's why I think Kevin Danso will also be quite useful, because I think that's one of his biggest strengths. So 100% keep Kevin Danso. But Vuskovic, like, long throws, torpedoes into the box. Vuskovic, get him on them next season. 100%. Not the throws, the headers. Next up, Kinski keep. Brandon Austin, I think, keep as well. I think
Brennan Johnson is on. I don't want to say unfortunate. I don't want to be too harsh, but he is a keep just because of that ACL injury.
He would. If he was fit, I would still want to have a look in pre-season. I wouldn't say sell straight away. I think it actually makes sense to keep him around again with Frank's adaptability to go to back three, 100%. Box defending.
Right now, he is your fifth choice centre half, really, isn't he? So, but keep for now. Romero is a keep.
Yeah,
I mean, if a big comes in and he wants to go and it's a lot of money, you know, I'm thinking 70-80 million pounds, then obviously we might have to let him go. But in terms of what Tottenham Hotspur should be looking to do is 1,000,000% keep. He's our best player, so
agreed. Jed Spence keep, Archie Gray. We spoke about this just briefly on your channel, but like there's been some people saying that he would do with a loan. I just don't see that being beneficial at this point. I think Archie Gray, again, like Johnson, we said earlier, was a player that Brentford were prepared to break their transfer record for, and Spurs nipped in at the last minute and got it done. I think Frank, like, I'm pretty sure the day, because it was like an Ornstein, basically, like, what's Ornstein's Here We Go? A bomber. It was like an Orm bomb that Archie Gray was going to Brentford.
It's crazy.
And, I'm pretty sure, like, from what I remember from the time, it was like Brentford and Frank had literally sat him down, presented it to him, and like, you're coming. It was the done deal, and then Spurs was like, we can't let this happen, and swept
people are sleeping on him. I think it's because of Lucas Bergvall, but Archie Gray is hugely talented. I think that, you know, there's a little way to go there physically for him. There's a little way to go in terms of what is his best position and how do we get the best out of him in that midfield area, because obviously we're not really seeing him play central midfield in first team football. When he played for Leeds, I think 95% of his minutes at Leeds were at right back, sort of coming in field, playing at right back, and obviously it's
certainly over half the season,
half and full back for us too. So I also think there's some development to happen there with Archie Gray next year, but he's got the talent to do it.
I also think generally, when a new manager comes in, one of the main kind of strengths they're going to look at in some of the players is versatility.
Yeah.
And also, when you've got a manager who is known for tinkering and adapting and being pragmatic and being practical and changing things in game, or from game to game, or to the strengths of or weaknesses of the opposition, basically a flexible manager. Gray, bear in mind he played a lot of minutes at centre-back last season and played a lot of minutes at right-back the season before for Leeds in the Championship. Gray's perfect, absolutely perfect. And I said it before, I said it in my video, I said it in your video just now. I think actually, if Frank wants to tweak from between a 4 and a 5 at the back in a game, Ray is a really useful player to be able to bridge between those two systems if they want to do that. Drop him in from centre back drop him in from midfield into centre half, vice versa. Be a bit of an anchor.
I do agree.
Bit of a Declan Rice kind of West Ham kind of profile.
I do agree the versatility is really, really useful, obviously, but I also think it's time now for him to find a home somewhere.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I don't know. I'm not actually too sure how beneficial it will be for him.
Do you know how
keep on moving around?
Yeah, I agree with that. But it's like, I agree. Last season, it was like, I remember the first game of pre-season, he started at centre-half against Hearts, and it was like, he was really good, but it was like, okay. And then it was like, I remember every pre-season game we played last year, from game to game, it was like, are we going to see him in midfield today? Are we going to see him in midfield? No.
Yeah.
And we didn't. And we did it once, I think,
and
in one of the games in Asia.
That confidence in that position. And midfield is a position where there's such a big part of it is the understanding of everything, sort of scanning your shoulder, everything like that, and but getting comfortable in that position. I think that's the next phase of Gray's development, is getting really comfortable in that position. Like every training session, every game next season, I think for Gray should be in one of the midfield roles somewhere.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of midfielders, I think 2 out of the 3 of these I'd say are certified keeps. I think we know which 2 these are.
Sarr
Sarr, certified keep. Bentancur sounds like it's going to be a certified keep. And I think, again, with that double pivot in midfield, if we believe that's how we can set up, I think it makes so much sense to keep Bentancur.
Yeah.
Bissouma is the interesting one. I'd be inclined to chuck him straight in here because, again, Bissouma is a player that I think Spurs should probably look to sell to raise some funds. But I actually think, we spoke about this just now, again, as a sole 6, he has got the ceiling if he was able to replicate his one-off form on a more consistent basis playing in that position. He could be a world beater. You're going to get naturally a more consistent player playing as a double pivot. And with a player that you know has got quality, I'd like to have a look at Bissouma in that role, but I also think it would be good to also be really happy to sell him, especially if we're keeping Bentancur. Like,
I get worried with Bissouma. Like, again, I'm in the same boat as you now, where I'm starting to think again. But the talent that we got there in a double pivot potentially, but I worry about getting sucked back in and then it just being the same next season of just inconsistencies, injuries, and frustration. And I kind of worry about that. I think again, it's looking at, give him a pre-season. If Frank likes him and Frank wants to keep him, I trust Thomas Frank and I'd want to keep him too. But if there's, an opportunity to go and get somebody like a Ravella, a Stiller, a João Paulinho, some people that we talked about in my video, I think you go and do that and you do sell Bissouma to raise the funds there, because I don't even think he starts in our best midfield anyway. Now with Bentancur, Bergvall, even a Pat Matsar in there, and I think we're covered enough in that position to maybe move on from him.
Okay, do you think we move him down to sell?
No, I still think give him pre-season, because I think he's a player that Thomas Frank could really like, and I think it all depends on what... move him down to sell.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I do think so, yeah. I don't want to... it's easy to get sucked back in with a player of that talent that can be as good as he can be, but we shouldn't.
Another player that I think Spurs should be looking to get some money for is Richarlison.
Yeah, just the injuries, man.
Time to move on. Although I think at his fit best, he could be really good under Frank as well. Like,
so do I.
Drop, spin, turn, play other players in, get in the box, be that more of a box presence. I think Richie is a really handy player to have in the squad. As we saw towards the end of the season, playing out on that left-hand side, but also as a striker. But I just think it's...
I'm going to be sad when he leaves, man, because it could have been so different. I think people talk badly about Richarlison as a footballer because of his injuries. And I actually think when he's been fit and available for Spurs, generally, he's been quite good the past 2 seasons. And I think, that Europa League final, that spell last season where he scored 10 goals in 11 games, I really like Richarlison, but it is time to sell, unfortunately.
Agreed. Wilson Odebeck.
Yep.
Definitely, I think there's a lot more talent waiting in there to kind of explode. We've both been big fans of him for a while. It just needs to come together a bit more next season.
That personality to start showing.
The thing is, when I see him play for France, I know it's a totally different level. It's not comparable, but when you see him play for France under 21s, you're like, it's there. It's just like
he probably feels a lot more comfortable in that environment, doesn't he?
I also think one thing that people have said, and one thing I've kind of said as well, with his ability to dribble on both feet, I actually think he looks way more comfortable out on the right when I see him for Spurs, and he plays there for France as well. Like, I think I like him there. And again, having that 1v1 profile is so good.
Odebeck on the right, Tel on the left. We will be there.
We're going to make movies. I want to talk about Mikey Moore last. So let's go with Lancashire and Scarlett, because I feel like one of them should be loaned out, and then we should have a look at one of them maybe in pre-season, just because we're going to lose that striker probably in Richarlison, or we've said to lose that striker.
Scarlett, for me, it would be Scarlett that I see in pre-season, and Lancashire that we... Problem is with Lancashire is that I don't want to write a player off at 19 years old, but I don't think Will Lancashire will ever make it at Tottenham. I don't think he will ever be good enough for us.
And that's also okay. Like, not every kid's going to come through and make it. Like,
exactly.
I'd love him to. I'd love him to be the next Harry Kane, and I really liked him in the 21s when they won the league, the PL2. But he needs another loan, 100%.
He needs another loan, and I think it needs to be the right loan, because we can't have another West Brom situation like last year where he goes in there, they sign one of the best strikers in the Championship a day later, and he doesn't play at all, really. But West Brom fans quite liked him, I think, how hard he worked and stuff like that. So, I'm not sure.
How many of these loan players are we shipping to West Brom with Ryan Mason?
Mate, honestly, pretty much any loan player that we're looking, like Jamie Donnelly, West Brom, get him straight there. Like George Abbott, West Brom. Like Dane Scarlett, if he does go out on loan, West Brom potentially. 100%.
Yeah, I'd be in favour of keeping Scarlett over Lancashire just to have a look. I think. Because I think there's still a player in Scarlet.
I actually want to ask a question quick. If you're a West Brom fan, would you want Spurs youngsters on loan?
Yes.
Would you?
100%, yeah.
Would you not be worried a little bit that Mason Spurs head was good? Because obviously Ryan Mason is so commonly Spurs. Would you be worried a little bit that he's just going to play them regardless? Like, mate, they'll be getting relegated with just 11 Spurs loanees in their side as long as those players develop.
Nah, that'd be fine.
Yeah, they're quality. So.
I think Jamie Donnelly should go there 100%.
Give him the real quality ones. Give him Donnelly or give him a Yang.
Abbott
give him
as well. I think people are
Abbott,
sleeping on George Abbott a little bit. He was brilliant for Notts County. And I think he's ready to make that step up. Final player.
Yeah.
One player, Mikey Moore. Now, this is an interesting one because I think a lot of people off the bat will go keep. I actually think that when you look at the attacking options that we've got and some of the attackers that we're potentially looking to sign, I know we spoke about not wanting to block the pathway, and that's kind of why we sold Son. And there's a lot of hype around Mikey Moore. I actually do think he could benefit from a loan in the Championship or abroad. I think he's so good. I think he will be a really good player for Spurs. Again, this isn't me saying we should definitely do it. I would be in favour of keeping him also 100%. But I actually think a loan would not be the worst thing in the world. I think people are kind of almost put off from saying it a little bit because we went so big on him. Like, I did it as a fan. We all like, this kid's a generational talent. And by the way, this is not me backtracking on that because I still think he's really, really good. Really good. I just don't see where regular game time comes for him at Spurs in the Prem or in the Champions League as well. It's not like we're in the Europa League anymore. I'm not saying he couldn't make that step up. I'm not saying for a second, like, you don't know. And this is why it's probably worth keeping him around just to see if he can. And there's so much time where you could even loan him out next year, like, potentially. So maybe he is worth a keep. But I also think a loan may be good for him right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I struggle with it. I don't know. I feel like loans can be really either detrimental or can really build a player up. And I'd worry. I wouldn't want a Championship loan for Mikey Moore because I just don't think it's I don't think it's right to send him to a league that is like so physical and that we're probably not allow him to showcase exactly what he's all about. If we could get him like a Prem loan, but then again, I don't know if he'd go to a Premier League team and start there. And it's a complicated one with Mikey Moore. Like, he's so good and so talented that like you know he's going to make it at Spurs. And it's like, do you keep him around and then just have him around the squad, or does he need to play football at this point? Like, a loan that I think could be so fun for him would be somewhere like an Ajax.
I was going to say, like it's a shame that Spurs don't have a Strasbourg.
Yeah, somewhere that like really focuses on the technical talents of players rather than the physical talents. A league that doesn't focus on the physicality over the technical as well, because Mikey Moore is a player who is always going to excel technically in his career. And I actually think he's a little bit better physically than people give him credit for sometimes.
Yeah, I think he is.
I agree with you. I don't think there's a role for him starting in the first team next season. You never know with a talent like this, though. Like, he could just explode in pre-season, all of a sudden you find him starting on the left-hand side next year. It's difficult. I think 100% see what Mikey Moore does in pre-season, see what Thomas Frank's saying, and then try and sort like the ideal loan for him. Yeah. And if that can get done, do it. If not, keep him.
Yeah. I probably agree with that. So should we say give him pre-season or just keep?
I'd give him pre-season.
Yeah.
And then I think make a judgment call at the end of the season, because I think it's one of those where, because it's not a bad thing to keep him, I think you only do it if the situation is right, and I think you do it after you've seen what he has to offer. I think it's a nice luxury to have.
Totally agree. Yeah, it's a bit of a win-win, isn't it? I totally agree. Right, before we wrap up, now we're looking at it in its full glory. Any changes you would make looking at it finished? Anyone that you'd want to move about?
It's interesting. I don't know if there's certain positions where like you might want to raise a few more funds for, but I don't really see the players to do that. Like, I think the main overbearing thing for me, whatever the word is, I'm not Shakespeare. The main thing for me with this squad is, like, I think that people are sleeping on a lot of these players in this squad. Like, I've seen some people say, for example, we should look to sell Mathis Tel and sign another midfielder. Never. Like, some of these players weren't able to showcase what they should have been able to showcase under Ange Postecoglou because of his system, because of the way that he profiled certain players. And look, he won us a trophy. I'll always love him. Yeah. But there were definite deficiencies there with him in terms of getting the best out of a lot of these players in our squad. He really didn't get the best out of a lot of these players. And
the physical demands that were put on them as well, running them into the ground.
All the injuries, and these players have been asked to do things that they probably shouldn't be asked to do, or asked to do things that that's not going to get the best out of them. And I think you will see next season a lot of these players profiled better, sort of platforms better with the structures around them that are there to get the best out of them. And I think you'll see a lot of these players excel. And I actually think that people will soon start talking about Spurs' squad in quite a different way, and a lot of these players in quite a different way, because we do have a talented squad. I will say it. I will argue with anyone about it.
Of course we do, yeah.
We've got a talented squad. We've got a squad there that is capable of getting back up there and competing in and around the top 5, top 6 in the Premier League. Yeah, we finished 17th last season, but that was a one-off and it was an anomaly. I promise you that. And I just think... I don't think we need surgery on the squad like some people might suggest we do this summer. I think we need quality additions in a few key areas that we talked about on my channel. Little plug there. And yeah, I think all of those in keep, I would 100% definitely look to keep. And I don't really think there's a conversation around many of them, to be honest.
Yeah, I think we've got that pretty spot on, to be honest. And when we beat Arsenal in pre-season...
Get something right.
Exactly. When we beat Arsenal in pre-season in that North London derby in Asia, then people will wake up to how good this squad actually is and where we're going to finish in the Premier League seasons. Nice one, Seb. As always, I will leave the link to this tier list in the description. Feel free to screenshot it, send it to us on Twitter, let us know your thoughts. Please do that. And also let us know in the comments one change. You know what? I'll let you have 3 changes. 3 changes that you would make to this tier list. You're allowed to change 3 players. Let us know who those players will be in the comments. You can move 3 of those players around into whatever category you want. Let us know what those 3 players would be. Make sure to go and check out Seb on TikTok and on YouTube. Seb's back posting on YouTube now. We did a video on his channel, which will be here in the end screen. You can just click on the screen and have a look at it. So make sure to go and watch that straight after this. Or if you come from Seb's channel, obviously, hi. And yeah, go and check out FC Bottle Job podcast as well. Mine and Seb's non-Spurs, just Premier League, Champions League focused podcast. We just get to chat, waffle about all things football. So make sure to go and check that out. Follow us on socials. And yeah, see you in the next video. Thanks.
Nice one. Boss.